Welcome to the Steve Ames Show with guitarist Sandy Renda, pianist Mike Yanuzzi, and my special guests, TV host Shannon Taylor and entertainer SPATZ Donovan. And now, on with the show. Why don't we do this more often? Just what we're doing tonight. Gee, but it's great to get together again. Why does it only happen now and then? We ought to do this more often. Don't you agree that I'm right? We make each other laugh, we make each other sing, and you can never ever overdo a good thing. Why don't we do this more often? Just what we're doing tonight. Oh, why don't we do this more often? Just what we're doing tonight. Gee, but it's great to get together again. Why does it only happen now and then? We ought to do this more often. Don't you agree that I'm right? We make each other laugh, we make each other sing, and you can never ever overdo a good thing. Why don't we do this more often? Just what we're doing tonight. Oh yes, just what we're doing tonight. Why don't we do this more often? Written by Ali Rubel and Charles Newman. Here we are at the Hilton Garden Inn with the two mighty musicians. At the guitar, Sandy Renda. And at the piano, Mike Yanuzzi. Right now, a centennial tribute to a beloved entertainer, Dean Martin, who was born Dino Paul Crocetti on June 7th, 1917 in Steubenville, Ohio. Dean Martin, the singer, actor, and comedian, had a career spanning movies, television, nightclubs, and recordings. And here's Dean's most famous song, written by Ken Lane. Everybody loves somebody sometime. Everybody falls in love somehow. Something in your kiss just told me my sometime is now. Everybody meets somebody someplace. There's no telling where love may appear. Something in my heart keeps saying my sometime is here. If I had it in my power, I'd arrange for every girl to have your charms. Then every minute, every hour, every boy would find what I found in your arms. Everybody loves somebody sometime. And although my dream was overdue, your love made it well worth waiting for someone like you. If I had it in hour, I'd arrange for every girl to have your charm. Then every minute, every hour, every boy would find what I found in your arms. Everybody loves somebody sometime, and although my dream was overdue, your love made it well worth waiting for someone like you. Thank you, Sandy Renda. Thank you, Mike Yanuzzi, for helping me celebrate Dean Martin's centennial. I want to give you some highlights on Dean Martin's career. You know, Dean first gained fame as part of the Martin and Lewis comedy team. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis were a team for 10 years, from 1946 until 1956. They began in nightclubs in Atlantic City and New York City, and then they went to Hollywood, where they starred in 16 movies for Paramount Pictures. Their first film was My Friend Irma in 1949, and their last film was Hollywood or Bust in 1956. And when Martin and Lewis weren't making movies, they were playing nightclubs and appearing on television, most notably on the Colgate Comedy Hour on NBC. Then in 1956, Martin and Lewis broke up the act. Dean Martin continued making movies. Dean proved to be a fine dramatic actor in such films as The Young Lions with Marlon Brando, Some Came Running with Frank Sinatra, and Rio Bravo with John Wayne. Dean was part of the Rat Pack with his famous friends Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop. They played Vegas together, and there were 4 Rat Pack movies. The first was Ocean's 11 in 1960, and the last was Robin and the Seven Hoods in 1964. Then in 1965, Dean Martin began his own TV show, The Dean Martin Show on NBC, a variety show which lasted 9 seasons until 1974. And then Dean continued doing specials on NBC, most notably the Dean Martin Celebrity Roasts, until the 1980s. Mike Yanuzzi, what are your memories of watching Dean Martin on television?
Dean Martin was on television? Well, I just watched for the Gold Diggers.
Oh, yes.
And of course, he was Mr. Wonderful, right? That was his. That was kind of his theme song too.
Yeah, they used that.
He always used to close his shows, his live shows. He always used to close with Mr. Wonderful.
That's right. He had a great variety show on Thursday nights.
Yep.
Wonderful show. And Sandy, what are your memories of listening to Dean Martin records?
Well, years ago, I learned a song called "On an Evening in Roma." That was one of the first songs I learned. I don't remember. Actually, it wasn't even with the band. It was my singing at different shows. I don't know even what year it was, but that was one of the first Dean Martin songs. Then "Return to Me," "Everybody Loves Somebody Sometime," Volare, right, Volare. And he was fun to watch. A different personality than, let's say, a Sinatra and so on. Very, very casual. He had that swooning effect and so on. But he was fun. I enjoyed his voice also. You know, it was very alluring.
That's right.
You know, if you're a woman listening to it and so on. So he was fun. Dean Martin was fun. Very popular.
And you're going to do a Dean Martin song for us right now.
Correct. That's Amore.
Written by Jack Brooks and Harry Warren and introduced by Dean Martin in the Paramount film The Caddy. Here are Sandy and Mike.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you had too much wine, that's amore. Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling, ling, and he'll sing It's a Bella.
hot swoop late to be day, like a tarantella, like a fella. When the stars make you drool, just like a pasta bazool, that's amore. When you walk down the street with a cloud at your feet, you're in love. When you walk in a dream, but you know you're not dreaming, signore. Scusa me, but you see, back in old Napoli, that's amore. When the stars make you drool, just like pasta bazool, that's amore. When you walk down the street with a cloud at your feet, you're in love. When you walk in a dream, but you know you're not dreaming, signore. Scusa me, but you see, back in old Napoli, that's amore, 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 that's amore.
This month, I'm celebrating my 40th anniversary in show business in commemoration of my first professional engagement in June 1977 at Mickey's Comet Restaurant in Hillside, New Jersey. I was just a kid at the time, and that's where I met my first piano player, Yolanda Peterpole, who worked with me for 20 years. Recently, I told the story of how I got into show business when I was a guest on Shannon Taylor's TV show on Manhattan Cablevision. Watch.
He's performed with Yolanda Peterpole, Murray Kenton, Marvin Lewis, Tony Edwards, guitarist Tony Santora, studied voice with tenor Felix Knight, all great stellar names, and a vocalist with my dear, dear friend and a guest on the show, Sal Yeager of the Swing Band. His CD recordings include the Roaring Twenties again.
The Roaring Twenties roar again.
The Roaring Twenties roaring again with the Jersey Bounce Band, and favorites of the 30s with the Sal Yeager Condo and the Sandy Renta Trio. All right? And as an actor, Steve's film credits include the Columbo picture The Pickle with Danny Aiello of 1993 and the Universal picture For Love or Money with Michael J. Fox. On radio, he's been a guest on TV with HBO's Campus Comedy with Joe Piscopo, the Joe Franklin Show, the Uncle Floyd and Joey Adams shows, and he's the host of his own cable TV variety show on Comcast, as we've said, and you can visit him on the internet, and his website is www.steveamesshow.com.
And you know what, Shannon? Steve not only is a super duper wonderful guy, a guy you wouldn't want, a just lovable person, but the bottom line, another wonderful attribute that Steve possesses is he's a walking, like Milton Berle and Mickey Rooney, they were friends of mine, and they were walking libraries of show business. Steve can tell you dates, where they performed, right down the line.
So can you.
You
Must be some conversation together. All righty, with that.
He's an encyclopedia,
With that,
Steve.
my father and you will be the backup. And Mr. Ames, you go ahead.
Thank you, Spatz, and thank you, Shannon, for those beautiful
Welcome
introductions.
to the conversation. And I know you have a beautiful voice, and I'm anxious to hear.
It's a pleasure to be here. Here we are in New York City in the month of June. And that reminds me of a song. Now that's a song from my upcoming CD, which we are presently recording, entitled Favorites of the 40s. We're going to have 16 songs from the 1940s, including Taking a Chance on Love, and this will be my third CD. You mentioned the first one was the Roaring Twenties, Roar Again. We recorded that back in 1986 with the Jersey Bounce Band, Yolanda Peterpole, and Tony Santora. And then my second CD was in 2007, Favorites of the 30s. We recorded that with the Sal Yaget Combo and the Sandy Renda Trio. And that was all the great songs of the 30s. And now we're doing the 40s, and that'll be out in August, hopefully.
Where can they buy it, Steve?
On the internet,
No, we
through
don't.
my...
We don't.
Oh, we're not allowed to?
No, it's a non-commercial station.
Okay, we're not allowed to sell, but we are allowed to mention my television show. As
Absolutely.
Shannon mentioned, I've been hosting my own TV show, The Steve Ames Show, on Comcast Cablevision in New Jersey since 1990. And since 2011, the show has been seen on the internet on my own website, and we'll give that out once more. If you want to see episodes of The Steve Ames Show, 24/7. You can go onto the internet any time of the day, any day of the week, any week of the month. Go to Steve Ames Show, www.steveamesshow.com, and you'll see 2 episodes per month. You'll see a brand new episode, and then you'll see a best of episode from a few years back, including episodes with SPATZ Donovan. SPATZ has been a guest on my show approximately 22 times.
Oh, my Lord.
And he's my favorite guest.
He's what?
He's my favorite guest.
My mother, my harshest critic, but my devoted fan, was always waiting for him because he was her favorite. My mother was a big, big critic.
But she had good taste. And SPATZ was right when he told that little story.
I like his mother, too.
Yeah, my mother also loves SPATZ Donovan. You know, I want to tell you, back in 1983, when I was graduating from Kane College University, it wasn't university at that time, it was Kane College. I was a theater major. Catch a Rising Star, the famous nightclub, Catch a Rising Star, which was here in New York City, they did a nationwide talent search, going to colleges all over the country, and they selected me to be on the HBO special Campus Comedy, which was taped at Tufts University. That's where you went.
That was
You went to Tufts University.
Yes, and I continued to play for their graduations drums for years and years. And I go to their entertainment reunions, and a lot of great entertainers came from Tufts. Meredith Vieira and Oliver Platt, and film, and then of course Tish. And Tufts has become a leader in entertainment production.
Well, I loved visiting there. It was April of 1983 that we taped this 1-hour HBO special.
And I want to see it.
I'm going to give it to you, entitled Campus Comedy, hosted by Joe Piscopo, who at that time was one of the stars of Saturday Night Live.
And he performed at my graduation year at Tufts.
That's a coincidence. I didn't know that. I didn't. Now, you had already graduated Tufts, I believe, earlier than that.
Yes, many years before. A few years before.
If you had still been there in 1983, you would have been in the audience. But they flew my mother and I out there on an airplane, of course, and we stayed at one of the nice hotels in Boston, and we stayed there for a couple of nights, and we taped this HBO special. Well, the special aired on HBO June 11th, 1983. I still remember the date. And when it aired, it was seen all over the United States. I did about 6 minutes at the end of the show.
And you know, the president of 13 came from Tufts, Neil Shapiro.
Didn't know that, but he's a good man. I did not know that. So I closed the show at the end singing When You're Smiling, telling a couple of jokes, wearing my straw hat like the one that SPATZ is wearing now. And it was a big success. Little did I know that down in Orlando, Florida, SPATZ Donovan, whom I hadn't met yet, was watching the show, saw me on the show, liked me, and wanted to contact me to be his replacement, because he was playing at that time Rosie O'Grady's nightclub in Orlando, Florida. So he called up HBO, but unfortunately the secretary he spoke to couldn't give the information.
You know what this tells me? That the two of you are no good. That between the two of you, nobody can contact anybody.
So like my brochure says, Broadway, Hollywood, and big band standards, most of my songs come from those 3 categories. Broadway shows, Hollywood movies, mostly of the 30s and 40s, and the big band era, from the big bands which were played on radio and live performances. It's a rich, rich period.
It's a different style of singing than we have today.
Yes, you are correct about that. It's the crooning style. See, I was influenced by 2 types of singers. My first idol, #1 idol when I was 8, 9 years old, was Al Jolson. When I heard Al Jolson, he inspired me to sing, and he was the greatest singer to come out of the vaudeville era.
Your favorite too.
And he didn't need a microphone in those
Your
days.
favorite.
And when I was very, very young, when I was 10, 12, 11, 13, 14 years old, I learned all of Al Jolson's hit songs. Mammy, Swanee, April Showers, Rockabye Your Baby with a Dixie Melody. There's a whole list of them.
Rockabye, yeah, baby, with a Dixie melody. Oh, my mammy, oh, Swanee, how I love you.
And that's how I got into show business. Swanee was the very first song that I sang in show business. I was 17 years old, and I was known for entertaining the kids in high school and grammar school before that. And all the kids knew me because I used to sing at recess, I used to sing at the parties, I used to sing in the hallways, I used to sing everywhere.
Do you do private engagements now?
Now I do, but in those days, I'm going back to when I was, in high school, I wasn't yet a professional. So here's how I got into show business professionally. I was walking down the street, and I was 17 years old, and I walked by Mickey's Comet Pizzeria restaurant. And there was a kid in the restaurant who went to high school and knew me from the school. So he comes out, he was working in the restaurant. He said, "Hey, Steve, go in the dining room now and sing for all the folks in the dining room." I said, "Wait a minute, I can't just go into a restaurant and start singing in the dining room." He said, "Wait, I'll get the owner." So he brings out Mickey Ackerman, the owner of Mickey's Comet Pizzeria. And Mickey had lobster stains on his, what do you call that thing that you wear when you're a chef,
Right.
And, and I knew right away he was the owner. So he said to me, "Hey kid, can you sing?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Go in there, entertain my crowd at the dining room." So I went in there and I sang a cappella, which means, without musical accompaniment, which I used to do for the kids in school. And Swanee was the first song that I sang. Right. And I got the job. I wasn't even looking for a job. He said, "Hey, you're good. I want you to come back on Tuesday night." This was a Sunday night. He said, "I want you to come back on Tuesday night, and I want you to be the intermission act for the bluegrass band." He used to hire a bluegrass band every Tuesday night for about 2 or 3 hours.
Is it done the same way today? You can't get jobs like this anymore.
No, it was a stroke of luck. You are correct. So I came in on Tuesday night, and the band played for about 2 or 3 hours. They came from Englishtown Music Hall, Englishtown, New Jersey. By the way, Mickey's Comet Restaurant, I forgot to mention, was in Hillside, New Jersey, my hometown, where I went to school in high school. So I got the job at Mickey's Comet Restaurant at the age of 17. I was still in high school, every Tuesday night singing a cappella for about 20 minutes. So I used to do all the Al Jolson songs, all the Eddie Cantor songs, and all the George M. Cohan songs.
Who was the second singer that influenced you?
The second singer that influenced me was Eddie Cantor, because Eddie Cantor was a great entertainer for peppy, exuberant, exciting kind of numbers, up-tempo kind of numbers.
He was a comic kind of performer.
That's a singing comedian. You are correct. His song hits were If You Knew Susie, Margie, Ida, Making Whoopee. Most of his songs were very peppy and exuberant because he used to dance around and clap his hands.
Thank you, Shannon Taylor and SPATZ Donovan. I'd like to dedicate this Irving Berlin song to my first piano player, Yolanda Peter-Paul, and to all the pianists I've worked with since, including Murray Kenton, Marvin Lewis, Andy Wallace-Sinovich, and Tony Edwards. I love a piano, I love a piano, I love to hear somebody play upon a piano, a grand piano, it simply carries me away. I know a fine way to treat a Steinway. I love to run my fingers over the keys, the ivories, and with the pedal, I love to meddle, not only music from Broadway. I'm so delighted if I'm invited to hear a long-haired genius play. So you can keep your fiddle and your bow, give me a P-I-A-N-O-O-O. I love to stop right beside an upright or a high-tone baby grand. The pedal,
I love to meddle, not only music from Broadway. I'm so delighted if I'm invited to hear Yolanda play. So you can keep your fiddle and your bow. Give me a Piano. I love to stop right beside an upright or a high tone baby grand. Yes, I've worked with some wonderful musicians over the years, including guitarist Tony Santora, and last but not least, guitarist Sandy Renda and pianist Mike Yanuzzi. We close off the show with the song Irving Berlin wrote for the Broadway show Annie, Get Your Gun, introduced by Ethel Merman. There's no business like show, business like no business I know. Everything about it is appealing, everything the traffic will allow. Nowhere can you get that happy feeling than when you're stealing that extra bow. There's no people like show, people they smile when they are low. Even with the turkey that you know may fold, you may be stranded out in the cold. Still you wouldn't change it for a sack of gold. Let's go on with the show. There's no business like show, business like no business I know. You get word before the show has started that your favorite uncle died at dawn. Top of that your pa and ma have parted. You're broken hearted, but you go on. There's no people like show, people they smile when they are low. Yesterday they told you you would not go far. That night you open and there you are. The next day on your dressing room they've hung a star. Let's go on with the show. Let's go on with the show.